Well, I'm going to start with obviously the news that's just come through. Jack Yendall, 3-week ban. Obviously disappointing, but a fair reflection of a guy who's not seen a card in all his career here.
Yeah, obviously, the hearing will come out. Jack took the decision to obviously plead guilty to the offence. It was a tough one for him because he knows what he's approached to do and his approach to bind underneath. And there is you can see there's the start of the bind there. You can see the start of the process he's going through. But at the same time, he realised that when you look at the directives that are coming out now, the referee went through the process and deemed that there wasn't a sufficient bind there for it not to be seen as an illegal clear out. If you enter in an illegal position now and make contact with the head, it's pretty clear what's going to happen. And I think the good thing for Jack, as you said, is that he's got such a good disciplinary record. Never having not even a yellow card in a long career, kind of shows you that he's not approached that to commit foul play. He's not approached that in any way to hurt anybody. I know he's had a couple of messages with Curtis Langdon since anyway, so that none of that has ever come to question. So I think probably to make sure he's had the maximum reduction that's possible is probably the right outcome, and it's one that at least now we've got some closure to. We know when the end date is, and we can move on, and we can still make sure that everybody is just practicing those slightly different techniques that can just protect everybody from anything that can be deemed as an illegal clear out, because that's what you've got to do. You've got to make sure that you're not clearing out illegally. If you're not clearing out illegally, it doesn't matter what you contact with, you start to protect yourself, and that's what we've got to focus on. We've got to focus on the non-illegal clear outs.
That was a frustration for you in terms of moving forward with the players that they've got to learn. The other frustration was the end of the game. You've probably reviewed it multiple times, like you said you were going to. What's your take on it now?
Well, I think it doesn't matter too much what I say, because obviously what happened, but I think everybody's in agreement that the prop is in contact across the gap, I think before the ball's thrown, let alone before. I mean, it's supposed to not even happen until the person who's catching the ball lands. So I think it's pretty clear there's early contact there. But that's it. It's happened. It was a surprise at the time because it appeared so obvious from where we were watching and for the players that nothing happened. But at the end of the day, it didn't get signalled in by the assistant referee. Referee blows his whistle, the game's over. So it is what it is. And we still haven't really spent any time. We haven't looked at that incident in a team meeting or in a team room and discussed it, other than we've gone, well, could we have lifted and been a bit stronger so that even with him across and hands on, we still caught the ball and we still have a chance to win the game. That's our only take on it from an improvement perspective, because that's how it's got to be. That's one decision in the game that's not gone our way, but the things in that game that we could have done better and were just as important moments that swung momentum in the game, and those are the only things we've approached, because that's how we get better. I just wanted to know, my only question I've asked is why it didn't get picked up, and that's it. And not because I've got massive drama about it. It's just so obvious. It just seems weird. And when things are odd and weird, you probably just need to ask a question about it.
Rugby incidents aside, let's move on. Bath this week, and like you say, a team that are banging form and a great fight back win at Saints last week.
Yeah, well, I think they're probably one of the form teams, if not the form team in the Premiership based on results. So that will make them confident in what they're doing, which it should do. That'll make them difficult. At the end of the day, we went to Bath early last season and lost in a year when we did very well. There's some danger signs there for us, and it's just another highlight that we've got to focus on ourselves, make sure we do things well. I mean, I actually think we're not in bad form. We went 3 wins, on the bounce, lost it by 1 point in a really kind of odd and difficult game to play in at home. I picked up a losing bonus point away from home, playing for an hour with 14 men. We're not falling apart by any means. I'm pretty good form myself, and we just got to keep on that upward path of progression and trying to accelerate towards the first next challenge out of the Premiership, which is the Heineken Cup. So we've got to accelerate through now, collect points, so we're where we want to be in the Premiership when the Heineken Cup break happens. Get ourselves on good form and going well for that run into that knockout, whatever it's going to be. It's just going to be knockout after knockout after knockout in the Heineken Cup. And we want to come out of that period again with something to fight for in the Premiership. It's a really exciting time of the season now.
You were boosted with the return of Jacques Vermeulen last week. You've got your Scottish contingent, Tom Francis, back from a big win against England. Giannis Kirsten's in the mix this week for selection. Things are looking strong again, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, particularly across the back five of the scrum, we've got some increased options. I think the guys have been playing. I mean, particularly that back row. I think they've been fantastic. The shifts they put in. Dave Ewers and Sam Simmons, Kappas, they've been working so hard and done an awful lot for us, and you've got to give them a lot of credit. Sam Skinner's taken a lot onto his shoulders, and we've kind of probably rotated through some of the other guys around that back five, but those guys in particular have taken a burden on and done really, really well. I'm very impressed with what they've done and what they've achieved over the last few weeks. Obviously, having Johnny back for this week helps things out a little bit, although he'll go away for a couple of weeks now. And then obviously, the two South African boys, Jacques and Janice being fit again, it just creates that depth that allows us to have some options and b that bit more depth of what has played with us recently in successful times, just to, like I say, adds a bit of thickness there. But it's it is what it is. That's just good. We've still got to get everyone playing well, and all on the same sheet. And those are the things we've got to focus on. I'd much rather focus on how we play than who is playing in the team, because I think if you start always looking around hoping for players to come back, you're getting it all wrong. You still got to keep focusing on how you play and what you're doing more than who's doing it. And I think as long as we can maintain that focus over these next few weeks, we'll come out of things okay.
That's the plus side. The downside, you just mentioned to the media there, Jack Noel has had a slight setback. Just give us a little update on it.
Yeah, well, he's got a hamstring pull. Just one of those things. Was getting his meters up. We'd probably held him back for a week. Jack was thinking he could have been fit the week before. It was touch and go. We probably held him back a week to try and make sure that he just got through a bigger block of training than he'd done. Just one of those things. He was ready to go. Was just running around in training. Felt a tightness in his hamstring, and it's ended up being a tear that we've got to give him time to recover from, and he's got to rehab from again. This does sometimes happen. An injury will sometimes follow an injury, especially when a player has adapted a little bit because they've had another injury. So there's Jack's toe injury. Whatever anybody says, he'll have adapted slightly how he's running. He'll have shifted in some way as he's gone back out into training and pushed on into full speed, and something's happened. It's probably just that slight difference. It's just created a little bit of imbalance somewhere. These things will sometimes happen, and it's just one of those really tough things. It's just now for Jack to get his head down again now and work hard. He's a really good rehabber and come back a better player. He's the one thing about Jack. Whenever he's come back from injury, he's played in some huge games for us. You think Premiership final 2 seasons ago, probably the best player on the pitch in that final. We lost it late in the game to Saracens. He had a fantastic game. He got injured in that game, came back from there and has featured in Heineken Cup finals and Premiership semi-finals and played really well. He does come back a good player. So the important thing for me is that I want to look at it and go, well, for the tail end of the season, we know we're going to have a winger fit, firing, fresh, ready to really fire into games, because without doubt, I want to prove that he's absolutely ready to go for the Lions. So we've got to look at the positives of it at this stage.
Final one from me. Bath this weekend, a derby game, is enough to excite the juices, as it were, straight away, isn't it? You don't need any real lift to get into it.
No, we've got a really important block of 4 games now. This block of games is probably as important a block as we've had this season, because we go 2 local derbies, so our kind of travel is limited now. And we've done our 2 longest away trips of the season. So our 2 away trips in this block are away to Bath and away to Gloucester. So, they're those ones that, they're an hour and a bit up the motorway. There's no real talk about having to spend time on the bus or anything like that. We can really focus on that. And then 2 home games in the middle. And, we've really got to lock ourselves down into saying these 4 games, they're going to be something that we're going to collect points from, because we want to come out of them in the position we want to be in, which is fighting in and around that top 4. So this is a real important time for us to lock ourselves down and get things right.